Hey everybody and welcome in. I'm Griffin.
And I'm John.
And we have a packed episode for you this week, including Lectric has a revamped model out. Do they have another hit on their hands?
My money is on yes.
And then we're going to take a look at what is the best defense against flat tires.
Got a couple options that we use that we're happy to share.
And then finally, what do we recommend in terms of a bike stand for the DIY mechanic at home?
Answers to all that and more on this week's episode of the Weekly Recharge.
All right, so lots of different headlines to get into this week. Let's just jump right into the number one selling E-Trike in America is getting a refresh. I'm talking about the Lectric XP Trike.
Whoop, whoop.
The original one was already beloved with its 500 watt motor, 330 pound weight capacity, and of course the usual electric wizardry of riding far better than its price tag would suggest, starting at only $14.99. Now the company is keeping that price, but revamping a lot of things and adding some new features, including a redesigned frame that's claimed to be more stable, a redesigned stem for more upright and comfortable position, adding a 50mm travel suspension fork, and a new color display, quieter motor performance, turn signals, and brake lights. Not to mention better hydraulic brakes, and the big headliner for me, 6 new colors to choose from. Love some color options. That includes Stratus White, Tempest Gray, Glacier Blue, Lavender Haze, Phoenix Red, and Dusk Blue. The Phoenix Red looked really awesome.
I was going to say that, yeah.
So there will also be an upgrade option for another $300. You can upgrade the motor to a 750 watt and increase the battery size from 13 amp up to 17.5 amp hours. So it's nice to see some optionality coming to it as well if you want to pay a little extra for a lot more motor and a lot more battery.
One point to add that the upgraded model doesn't ship till September, but the 500 watt model is available now. I'm just really curious to see, I think we've all been kind of curious about this, kind of anticipating this release for a while. And, you know, the original is one of our most popular individual reviews. So
it absolutely is. There is a huge demand for trikes among trike riders, and it's been the best value for a while. So interesting to see how the rollout is going to go for this one.
Definitely. Moving on though, we got a story from the UK. So Heybike has launched a new series of 5 e-bikes over there called the Galaxy series, and these bikes really differ a lot from what we've seen from Heybike here in the US. They're made for a variety of uses, and they include a lot of higher end components. They just generally have like a more unified appearance as well. So just to kind of give you a quick run through on each of them, the Model T and Model M seem to share a pretty similar frame and a lot of specs. They've both got, well, actually all of these have 250 watt mid-drive motors. So these are the Galaxy Venus mid-drive. Curious about that because we've seen the Heybike Alpha that was manufactured there. The motor there was manufactured by Mevice, so I'm curious if this is similar. But those bikes have 100 newton meters of torque, 500 watt hour battery, 9-speed Shimano drivetrain, and then an SR Suntour front suspension. The Model T is intended for trekking, and now the Model M is marketed as an EMTB, but it's definitely a little bit more of an off-road trekking bike. There's not the geometry or style there for an actual EMTB. And then the Model T seems to be maybe a little bit more commuter styled, but the Model C is intended for urban commuting. So that has another 250 watt mid-drive with 80 newton meters of torque and the same 500 watt hour battery, and then a 7-speed Shimano Nexus internal gear hub. Nice. That's very cool to see. The Model K is kind of a compact commuter or sort of utility bike that kind of shares some appearance with like the Lectric 1 or maybe like a non-folding version of the Lectric XP4 that has the lower power 80 newton meter mid-drive and a 9-speed drivetrain, and then a smaller and lighter 330 watt hour battery. There's also a Model X, which is a cargo bike that has the more powerful 100 newton meter motor and the larger battery. And then the cargo rack there has a 330 pound capacity and uses the Mike Click Go system. So cool. You can get a range of like third-party accessories. And so right now, these bikes are limited to Europe. We're really curious to see if we end up getting them here. I think
crossed.
One of the coolest things, in my opinion, is that they look a lot like the Heybike Alpha that we reviewed. So it really seems like Heybike is getting sort of like a little bit more of a unified design ethos going on. And I think that's just really part of a brand's evolution, and so that's really good to see here.
It's kind of cool to see them grow into their own in terms of the identity, the maturity process. You know, they've done a really good job with affordable models. They've grown their user base substantially in a fairly short amount of time.
Definitely.
So these models definitely hold a lot of promise, and fingers crossed they come to the States soon so that we can, get some test rides.
Yeah, if anybody at Heybike is listening, send them our way.
For sure. And then moving on, we're going to be talking about Oregon. They have new rules that expand e-bike use. We're really happy to see this. So new rules went into effect already back on July 7th. So class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes e-bikes can now be ridden on bike-specific trails and multi-use trails in state parks, where only analog bikes were previously allowed to use them. They can also ride on wet sand at the beach. So they do, of course, have some safety guidelines baked in here, basic trail etiquette, shouting out on your left, things like that, and maintaining controlled speeds when taking corners or riding in other high traffic areas. Riders must yield to pedestrians, horses, and anyone moving at a slower pace, and slow down when around children or animals. Great advice. Any unclassified e-bikes are considered motor vehicles and are not permitted in these areas. And it's just nice to be able to report some good news here. It was, a few months back, we were actually talking about Oregon when I believe it was a senator or somebody tried to propose kicking them out of all bike lanes altogether.
Yeah, class 3s.
We were not on board with that. So it's kind of good to see, a new law passing going the other direction, expanding access. Really happy to see it. Way to go, Oregon.
I think just broadly in general, we've seen a lot more positive news coming out lately, which is great because we were talking about a lot of brand closures and kind of depressing stuff for a while. So this is good to see.
Absolutely.
But our next story comes to us from overseas as well. So Upway, which is a company that deals in sort of refurbished e-bikes, they're teaming up with Orbea on a trade-in program. And so the program is going to take place in France, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, at least according to Upway's post on LinkedIn. And then riders that have e-bikes that might be getting a little older, you want to trade them in and upgrade, you can go to Orbea dealers, and then so in addition to any credit that you get from the trade, you can also, for at least a short time here, get a bonus rebate of up to 500 euros on the purchase of a new Orbea e-bike. So a couple of quotes here. Hopefully I can get the names right. But so Upway's co-founder and CEO, whose name is Toussaint Watine, is that Mr. French over here? Yeah,
I don't really speak French. I just say croissant with a lot of enthusiasm.
All right. Well, I'm not going to call this person croissant. But anyway, this person said, "We are excited to work with Orbea, a strong and purpose-driven brand to offer their customers a reliable, circular, and rewarding solution. With e-bike sales expected to surpass car sales by 2030, it's essential to support access to a trustworthy secondary market for used e-bikes." And then Orbea's CEO, whose name is much easier to pronounce, Daniel Martinez. Wow.
Is it though? Is it, John?
Daniel Martinez, I apologize. He said, "By giving bikes a second life, we are helping more people ride, connect with their communities, and transform their lives. Together with Upway, we are proud to lead this initiative and help set new standards for a more conscious, inclusive, and sustainable future." So, we've reported previously that Upway here in the U.S. formed kind of a similar partnership with Rad Power Bikes and some select locations. So, we're just really happy to see that kind of expanding. We'd love to see them partner with Orbea here, but Orbea is a little bit smaller here than they are in Europe. But we are definitely big fans of Upway and what they're doing. Just the ability to kind of take a bike that had a lot of love and needs a little tuning up,
a little more attention can get in the hands of someone ready to ride it. Always really happy to see these types of things. So.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
All right, and then our final story is going to Kickstarter. This is actually for a conversion kit that is affordable, lightweight, and it's just a really easy way to electrify an analog e-bike. So
sounds like a good trifecta of awesome.
For sure. So this is one of the larger responses we've seen on Kickstarter in a while. A $1.3 million pledged so far on just a $10,000 goal. So that is overachieving for sure.
That was also as of a couple days ago, so it's probably much higher now.
Exactly. So this motor is called the Kamingo, and it uses the friction drive approach with a motorized wheel set right against the bike's rear tire. So it is a multi-component system, including a 3-pound water bottle shaped and sized battery that can fit in a bottle cage with a 266 watt-hour capacity, a 2-pound palm-sized motor with 250 watts of nominal power and a peak of 750 with 40 newton meters of torque, a motor mount that secures to the bike's seat stays, requires some triangular seat stays there, and a cadence sensor that straps to the cranks, a handlebar mount for the control panel, and a small rectangular control panel with a color display and adjustment knob, and a wire to connect the motor and battery. So the motor is best suited for bikes with street tires like road bikes, lightweight city bikes, or some commuters. The motor has both throttle and pedal assist modes and can reach 20 miles per hour in the US or 25 kilometers per hour over in Europe. Some really cool tech on here, including just quick installation once mounts are set up. It takes, they claim, I think 10 seconds is all to install it. Sensors adjust pressure on the tire to prevent slipping or skidding of the motor's wheel, and it has regenerative braking and coasting to recapture some charge. There is fall detection to stop the motor in the event of a crash. And, if jam detection to disengage the motor if rocks or twigs get stuck in the tread. So the final price will be $589, but while the Kickstarter campaign is going, it is just $349, which is actually a very affordable way to electrify a bike. Kind of impressive. Yeah. So the company offers, accessory add-ons like a carry case, phone mount, bottle cage, extra battery, etc. So, of course, there's a lot of really impressive sounding things. Hopefully we can get one into test sometime. It'd be really cool to see, put it up through its paces. But it seems like a promising thing with a lot of good response so far.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really curious about it. That price is very enticing. If you're interested, we will leave some links down in the video description. But that does it for this week's news.
All right, now to give you a little peek as to the bikes that we got in the shop recently that we're going to be testing out. And, the busy summer keeps on rolling on. John, we got a lot of bikes coming in this week.
We are stacked for a while, that's true.
Definitely. So let's start off with a new brand for us and a new brand of motor as well. So we're talking about the Leoguire Trailblazer. This is a mid-drive motor EMTB. So it has a Motonova motor. Really curious to see how those ones ride. Very popular over in China. It's a 500 watt motor with 100 newton meters of torque, a 720 watt hour battery, and full RockShox suspension front and rear. Looks really promising. A really unique paint job to it as well. So we're curious to see how that rides. Yeah, for sure. And then next up, we actually got 3 different bikes in from Scott. Very excited to test those ones out. Starting things off here is the Scott Lumen. This is an SL bike, and man, when I say SL, I mean it is super light. So starting things off though, TQ motor on this one with a 360 watt hour internal battery. Now that is pretty lightweight, but you can tack on another 160 watt hours with a supplemental battery that replaces one of your bottle cages. Of course, it's made of carbon fiber. It's got an integrated rear shock too, which is pretty cool. And of course, only 34 pounds, which is an absolute featherweight for an EMTB.
That's very impressive. We also got another one called the Scott Voltage, which isn't quite as light, but still pretty light.
Very light in its own right.
39.5 pounds there. So that's more of an enduro style bike, so a bit longer on the suspension travel. That one also has a TQ motor and a 360 watt hour battery. And it looks like that one's compatible with the range extender as well. But then we also got a commuter from Scott called the Silence Evo. That one has a Bosch motor with a 625 watt hour battery, as well as a Gates belt drive and an NVLO hub. So that one definitely looks pretty promising as well.
I was gonna say, a really good feature package on that too. And then we had a few different things go live, including my review of the Yakima Stage 2. So this is a really cool hitch rack. They recently revamped it and refreshed it a little bit, but it's still very nice and dependable. I greatly value how simple it was to operate. Just get the bikes on there and go is kind of like how I like the racks. So you can definitely do that with this one. Some of the highlights include 70 pounds per tray, so 140 pounds total for 2 bikes. It does have the unique ability to add on 2 extra racks if you want to and carry 4 total bikes. It does drop the weight rating pretty significantly, but still, if you're a larger family looking to take some lightweight bikes, maybe those Scott ones, for example, hey, you could technically haul 4 of them. So really cool stuff there. Check that out if you haven't. And also check out John's review, because John, you had the Burley Hopper go live as well.
That's right. Yeah, we've tested a whole bunch of different trailers and accessories from Burley, and they're all very well made. This one is very unique in that it is convertible between a bike trailer mode and then also sort of like a push wagon kind of deal. So it, if you're hauling, camping gear or, groceries, whatever, you get to your destination, you can kind of pop off the tow arm and then make that vertical and then kind of wheel the thing around. And then that can also handle kids when it's in the stroller mode as well.
It can also handle John after a very long and tiring day, and I just throw him in the back and pull him around.
We have not actually tried that, but I wouldn't be surprised. It's,
not yet, again, we haven't.
Durable construction, solid, good weight capacity. Again, if you haven't seen that, check it out and make sure you're subscribed so you can keep up on all of our new content.
So it turns out Earth, it's a really big place, and we like to explore little parts of it that we find and come across. So John has our trail system this week. John, where is it we're headed to?
So we are going back to Oregon. We're looking at the Crooked River Scenic Bikeway, which is in Central Oregon. So Griffin, I'm kind of borrowing your approach here, and I'm using this segment as like a vehicle for my own learning.
Borrow away.
But also then we talked about Oregon's new e-bike laws, so I kind of wanted to tie that in here.
Stick it in the state, I like it.
Yeah. So this road, it is a road. So it starts in Prineville, Oregon, and runs kind of south and a little bit east to the Prineville Reservoir and State Park. And this road is about 18.5 miles in length, so then a round trip becomes around 37 miles. It's entirely paved. It starts at the Rimrock Park, which is south of downtown Prineville, and then you go through kind of a series of transitions here. You pass some llama farms and some cattle ranches, and then you get into the Crooked River Canyon, which is like these basalt cliffs, and there's buttes and views of mountains and stuff, and then it ends at the Big Bend Campground at the Prineville Reservoir. So along the way, there's just a lot of spots to stop and rest. You can get water, stop for a picnic at various parks. There's places you can even go like fly fishing. And then, there's even some campgrounds along the way if you want to take advantage of that. But then you've got local wildlife that includes golden eagles, deer, and like great blue herons, obviously, as well as, seeing fishermen in their natural habitat out there. Yeah.
Seeing the wild fishermen out in the wild.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So the website, which is traveloregon.com, recommends a bike shop called the Good Bike Company as a good source for information and service that's in Prineville there. And then I guess they even serve beer, so you can grab a drink after you get back from a long ride if you want. But then they also recommend a place called Connolly Cowboy Corner Grocery and Deli if you need some grub, as they say, in those parts. And then the bikeway here can be open year round, but it is a little bit weather dependent. Just depends on like if the winter weather is severe, you might not want to head out there. But there's a website called tripcheck.com that you can take a look at, or the website here recommended reaching out to the Good Bike Company for current status of the route as well. As you might have seen from our reviews here in Southwest Utah, we have some really pretty canyons here that we sometimes ride through and film. So this kind of looks like a little bit of a similar experience, but maybe cranked up to 11. Just a lot of beauty, the sort of high desert there. And
yeah, this is actually really cool. A little bit of a different color palette than our usual red, but I'm really digging all of these different rock formations, these mountains, the buttes. Look at that butte. It's a butte.
It's a butte. It's a great butte.
I've been sitting on that for the last 2 minutes. But yeah, really cool place to check out. So. Well, good find.
Yeah, thanks. And if you've been there, let us know down in the comment section. If you have anything in your local area or anywhere that you've been that you want us to highlight in this segment, let us know in the comments or email us at questions@electricbikereport.com. All right, now it's time for everybody's favorite segment of the show where we take a look at questions and comments from you guys. So a lot of good content here. I think this is probably one of our best weeks in terms of the variety of things that we're covering here. So starting off with our first question from last week's episode of this show from Rob Maxwell 3678, who says, follow-up question on tires. I purchased a commuter bike several weeks ago. Is there an aftermarket product that I can buy to help prevent a flat tire? Also, is there a product that would be helpful to get a bike with a flat tire back to the car without fixing the tire on the trail?
Great question. So the answers are yes and sorta. So let's talk first about what you can do to prevent a flat tire. So one of my favorite sayings is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I do actually like a few different products here that we use to prevent flats. So the first thing I would recommend is looking at some type of sealant. We around here like to use slime. Really, it's a great thing. It's actually been a game changer for us. We used to not use it with review bikes that came in through here, and then we had a lot of different flats that would happen on range tests. I mean, we logged so
like
many
5
miles
in a week one time.
I know,
and that was the moment we were like, we got to do something about this.
It kills our scheduling and just throws us off track. So we started putting slime into all of the tires just as like standard practice, and like I said, changed the game. We have far fewer flats now, so it's really easy to install as well. All you do is pop out the valve core, you squeeze a little bit of slime into the tubes, put the valve core back in, inflate the tire, then just spin it around a couple of times, and then you're pretty much good to go. So if you do get a thorn or something in there, basically just immediately kind of like fills in and seals that out to make it airtight again, and keeps your bike rolling in good shape. So again,
to touch on your earlier point about an ounce of prevention. In that case, it's a few ounces of prevention, but that gives you a few pounds of
pounds of cure. Yeah, absolutely. And then there's also now, while we love slime, it is technically like lighter weight protection. If you do come across something really harsh that could do some serious damage, there is something for that as well, and that is Tannus tire liners, or there's other different brands. Tannus is one that we're most familiar with though. So that's really cool. It just basically encases the tube itself, and then you put that in the tire, you get that up on the rim and then inflated. It just gives you an actual barrier and layer of protection between the tube and the tire itself. So different things go in. They've actually showcased a whole bunch of different stuff. If you look at their website, like nails and screws and all sorts of nasty things going through, but not actually making its way to the tube. So it's another really effective thing that you can do. You can actually have both slime and Tannus if you want, if you're going all out protection there. So definitely look into those as well. Now on the second part of the question, what can you do if you get a flat without actually stopping and doing the full repair job on the side of the road? This gets a little bit more limited, I would say. There are different things you can do. If you have a really big hole, there is puncture kits, but again, that might be more involved than you want to be doing. And that's only for tubeless tires technically anyway. So basically it comes down to, you can bring along an air inflator with you. If you happen to have a slow leak, it might be able to fill that back up and just kind of limp along for another mile or two. Whatever you need to do to get back to the car, back to home base. In addition to that, so going back to the Tannus tire liners, now they say on their website, and I haven't personally tested this, there's just that caveat is out there, that you can actually ride a couple of miles. That should actually be a barrier to protect your rim. Again, that's what they claim. I don't know for sure, but you might be able to, again, get a mile down the road that way. Or again, if you can inflate it, if you don't want to ride it, you can maybe, like a lot of e-bikes have walk assist mode. You can do something like that to help just kind of push it along, make it a little bit easier for you. But yeah, I think that's really about it. Oh, actually, John did find something kind of helpful as well.
Yeah, so this is something that, again, we haven't tested hands-on, but this is a very cool idea. This product called the Hike a Bike harness from a company called Restrap. Basically, it's like a thing you wrap around the top tube of your bike that includes some like backpack straps. It allows you to just like sling your bike over your back like a backpack. And there are a variety of other like strap things that you can find out there as well, which again, we haven't tested yet, but they're out there.
And that'll depend on you, how heavy your e-bike is, how much you're willing to kind of like backpack it out. But again, that's, if you're looking for some sort of solutions, that's what we would recommend to look further into. So for our next question, this came to us by way of email. It's actually just some commentary here from Greg Roderick, who says, many of your comments when viewing Lectric bikes bring up the many different options regarding level assists and mode selections as being too complex. However, what is not discussed is how the mode selections can be changed on the fly. This can be very helpful when experiencing increased load demand like a hill or pedestrian overpasses. By simply changing the mode on the fly, the bike is instantly supercharged, providing way more power than a basic level assist adjustment. I find this feature very helpful, and others may as well. Maybe this could be discussed on your weekly bike report on YouTube. Here we are, Greg.
Exactly. Yeah, we got you. And it's a good timing because we've sort of done a little bit of reevaluation recently as well, just kind of talking with riders like yourself. I think our stance has been colored a little bit just by the fact that our testing process is kind of very lengthy and complex already. So like when you add in all of these different options and riding modes and torque sensing, cadence sensing modes, like it just makes our process a little bit more involved and, just a little bit more work on our part. So, but kind of reframing that and looking at that from a different point of view, we've really kind of started thinking about these riding modes as being good for riders of various sizes, weights, fitness levels, that sort of thing. So, folks who are a little bit smaller, lighter, and more fit might prefer sort of the lower power riding modes like eco or trail. And then kind of the opposite, if you're taller, heavier, or maybe a little bit more out of shape, then you might lean more towards like the higher assist levels in trail or boost mode. And sorry, for the record, if you're not familiar with these, basically Lectric's bikes have 3 riding modes with different power levels, so eco, trail, and boost, and then within each of those there are 5 pedal assist settings, just kind of like on your standard setup for a bike, but they're just sort of these stages. And then what the commenter Greg here was saying about the sort of supercharge is like if you're in PAS4 in trail mode, you can just bump up to boost mode. It gives you kind of like that extra jump. So then really, if we look at this, like Lectric is just sort of breaking this down into smaller increments of power. Whereas if we're talking about like our experiences with brands that have fewer assist levels, like 3 or 4 power levels, you're kind of getting a similar experience there, just without that sort of granular breakdown of a bunch of different power levels. So it's just kind of like different approaches that different brands are taking. Some make our testing process easier, but some really, make the lives of real riders out there easier. And, actually that leads us to ask, what do you prefer on your e-bike? Do you prefer fewer settings? Do you like the ability to customize your power levels through like an app or the display? Or do you prefer just this huge range that, gives you a ton of options to choose from? Let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
We definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. Right.
But then our next comment here is from the Venture M review that you did, Griffin. This is from Jody W. Shelton, who says, is this a bike you think would be okay for dedicated off-road bike trails? Some trails close to me are advertised more so for mountain bikers, but it's not that technical. I currently ride them on my hybrid bike, which is a giant Roam, and it's just fine. The trail is steep at some spots, so I really wanted something electric to help with those sections. Was looking at the Rambless, but I don't do anything that insane to need it. I do ride on paved trails at parks often also. I'm stuck on what I should do.
Okay, well,
let's help her out.
For sure, let's help out. So this can absolutely be a frequent or full-time off-roader if that's what you want to do, so long as like the trails are not overly intensive. And based on kind of like what you described, it doesn't sound like they are. So I think the Adventure M could be great. Like you said, you're kind of doing the giant roam now. I looked more into that bike, and it's like 65 mil of travel or something like that. So I think that based on the fact that with the Adventure M, you're getting something with a little bit more travel at 80 mil. You also have the big fat tires, which really help, kind of soak up some of that abrasiveness of off-road riding. It's definitely going to be something you can ride with a lot of confidence. I also really like the frame construction they have going on with what they've been doing with like their gravity cast frames lately. Just some really nice stuff there.
Solid, yeah.
I think you're definitely going to appreciate the precision and power that you kind of get off that mid-drive motor from the Adventure M. The Adventure 3 and the Adventure M, they're like similar, but that motor to me just does make it a little bit more off-road friendly. Just feels a little bit more precise, which I really do appreciate when I'm not on something smooth like paved road riding. So I do think it would be pretty nice in that regard. So for other people listening, just to be like super clear here, the Adventure M, it's not like dedicated single track riding, any like full on EMTB stuff. But if you do have something more mild, I'm talking your double track, your file roads, your things like that, I think it can absolutely be something you ride full time off road on, as long as you keep it within kind of its limits there. Don't go too hog wild. It is a heavy bike. It's got fat tires, not the most maneuverable thing. So again, no tight single track, but any other type of off road riding, I think it should be able to handle it pretty well.
Cool.
Now this person also had mentioned about the event Rambless. Now, me personally, I might lean in favor of the Rambless just a little bit if you're like constantly off-road. I do kind of appreciate having like the dropper post on there. The front suspension fork is a little bit nicer as well. So if you don't need like the extra stability of the fat tires, that might be something to consider. But I think either way, I really like both of those bikes. That motor really does make those just really, really good rides. The A100 motor that Event has done with Gobao, it's a great, great ride. So either of them should serve you pretty well.
So is it fair to say like sporty and agile on the Rambless versus kind of upright and comfy and stable on the Adventure?
A little bit, yeah, for sure. One of them's kind of the Rambless definitely a little bit more maneuverable, so I kind of like value and appreciate that. But with the Adventure M, you can kind of just rumble, bumble, stumble your way across like some rocks and stuff like that. A little bit of like a different approach, but it's also kind of softer by benefit of those tires as well if you like lower the pressure down a little bit. But either way, again, based on kind of what Jody described here, I think, highly capable and can definitely do that type of riding.
Right on.
All right, so next up comes to us from JS Chuck 865 from the Trek FX Plus 1 review. That's one for you, John.
That was.
Says, so please report back on what Trek says. I assume, talking about the charger here, I assume that it limits to full charge to somewhere between 80 and 90%. Charging to 100% and discharging to 0% aren't good for long-term lithium-ion battery health, especially leaving them in that state for extended periods of time. The next two features discussed are also geared, pun, it's a bike word, towards promoting, that's what they said, not me.
It's one of my moves, hey.
Towards promoting long-term battery health. It's really nice that Trek is making it easy to keep their battery healthy without having to dive into material science to understand how these batteries work and how to take care of them. Agreed.
Yeah, so actually what this person was referring to was specifically a feature in the Trek Central app, which is called the Extended Life Mode. So basically when you activate that, the app tells you like, hey, this can help extend your battery charge. But when I did the review, I didn't really kind of have the behind the scenes picture on that. So I reached out to our contact at Trek, and in the review, I basically said, hey, we'll add some information here when we get it. And we did get some info. Well, I guess kind of backing up, like, yeah, absolutely. Everything that is here is very cool. Like the battery health features in the app are great. The MagSafe charger is really awesome. And, if you haven't seen anything about that, check out the review for more information. It's just a really user-friendly charger there. And I think that those things are things that, you get an e-bike and your charger, the app, like it all just kind of works. You don't really think about it a whole lot. When you have this sort of like extra features, extra control, it kind of just gives you more to appreciate. And I think that's very much the case here.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point. Like battery stuff is kind of like the unsung hero. Everyone just kind of focuses on range. Is the battery bigger or smaller? Yada, yada. But there's like more going on, like kind of baked into it that we don't often talk about or don't often appreciate, but there's some like cool stuff in there. And we like to see more control in the hands of the user if you want to have those options with your battery.
Definitely, yeah. So that extended life mode, basically you are correct in what it does. So our contact didn't share exact percentages, but they did confirm that when that feature is enabled, it basically prevents the battery from charging to 100%. So battery lifespans are kind of measured in charge cycles, and that is when you're charging from 0% to 100%. So if you instead go from like 20 to 80%, or whatever percentage that this feature limits it to, that basically just doesn't complete a full charge cycle, so you can charge more cycles over time and then get more use out of your battery. Now, it is worth pointing out and acknowledging that while this does give you a little bit more control than we typically see, we are up to date with a lot of battery manufacturers who kind of build technology like this into their battery management systems, or BMS, if you see that acronym. Brands are very conscious of battery life and making sure that people get the most out of their battery, especially, that's appreciated since they are one of the more expensive parts of e-bikes. Trek did a great job here, but it's not like you don't get this kind of technology elsewhere.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like another layer to it. But again, batteries, BMS, all of that, kind of the unsung heroes doing a lot behind the scenes to make sure e-bike, ownership and whatnot goes the distance and keeps people happy while riding. So.
Absolutely, yeah. And then let's see, getting towards the end of the questions here. Next one is from last week's episode of the show from Mac Muchmore1, who says, "Hey guys, I'm 54 years old, 6 feet tall, and weigh 280 pounds, trying to lose some of that. And I'm interested in getting an e-bike, even though I haven't ridden in years. Right now, I'm considering the Lectric XP4, as I live in a small condo and don't have a bike rack for my car. Do you think that this is a good choice, or do you have any other bike recommendations for someone like me? Thanks."
So Mac, I think you're on the right trail there. You've picked out a good one if you don't have the means to transport it around, but you want to go somewhere with your bike. Folding is definitely a good one to look into. We were really impressed with the XP4, specifically the 750 watt motor. I think is something you'll appreciate for a rider of your size. I know that me at 235, I thought both were pretty good, but I definitely leaned a little bit in favor of the 750.
Punchy and capable.
It's peppy as all get out for sure. So the only other one I would add to the mix for you to consider, because I think it's another strong candidate as well, is one that we just had go live the other week from John with the Lectric Fold 1 Plus. Another really good bike, really good folder, good amount of power, slightly different take from the XP4, just a little bit. They kind of have some different distinguishing points. So we thought we'd kind of make that the breakdown and comparison of the week here. So let's kind of start things off with the XP4. So I think my main overall takeaways, with the things I'm walking away from that bike with, again, it's of course the more affordable option here. That's kind of Lectric's calling cards, what they always do, sure. And love and celebrate them for that. But that doesn't mean because it's more affordable that's compromised. Actually, it has really, really nice ride quality and characteristics, and really good features as well. We're very impressed with the total package of $12.99 for that 750 watt version. It's a very powerful but quieter motor than you'd expect given all of its power. It's got really easy operation too, with an intuitive to use torque sensor. So it's just easily pedaling. If you push a little harder, you will get more power out of it. But it also has a very light approach of just get those cranks moving and you can move pretty easily, which is nice.
Kind of a high baseline.
Yeah, and with the XP4 specifically, they improved some of the ergonomics on it with that stem that now comes a little bit further back. The frame overall is just sturdier and frankly looks a lot better too. I really like the design on it. It's just got sound all around ride quality. And then, of course, it has a really high capacity, 150-pound rear rack that you can utilize as well. You can haul buddies or cargo with that. And then, I'd say they're kind of the sportier, more performance-y of the two compared to the Lectric Fold 1. So if you like things fast, it can definitely reach some great heights there.
Yep, definitely. And then I'm going to kind of handle the Fold 1 Plus side of things here. So kind of the main takeaways with this bike, at least right now, as we're talking, we'll get into this more later on, but it is on sale for $13.99. So it's only $100 more than the XP4. And there are some nice little upgrades there. Number one is the sensor swap feature. So that gives you both torque and cadence sensing modes you can swap between. You have those 3 different riding modes that we mentioned earlier. There's like a cruise control function. You have pairing with the Lectric app, and then the Apple Find My system built in for some added security. You also get IPX7 and IPX5.
IPX5 on the Lectric XP, so a little bit better rating on the Lectric Fold there.
For sure. But then, the Fold 1 is also solid motor power. I would say it's maybe not quite as punchy as the XP4, but it's still up there. It's still a very capable bike. And then you also get a few options for how the throttle behaves. You can kind of tune your throttle and pedal assist speed separately, and then set whether or not the throttle speeds are tied to the pedal assist level. And then let's see, comfortable overall. It does have a little bit of a longer reach than the XP4. And then it is advertised to have a maximum weight capacity of up to 450 pounds, which is pretty insane.
I believe that's tops for folders, if I'm remembering correctly. So yeah.
The cargo rack isn't quite as beefy as on the XP4. I think it's 130 pounds. I didn't write that down, but it's still pretty comparable, and then just gives you that overall higher weight capacity. And, we consider that one to very much be on a similar level in performance, but maybe a little bit more suited for kind of laid back cruising. If you're looking for something that's on mostly flat terrain or something just a little bit more mellow, that one kind of
checks the boxes there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then as we kind of looked a little bit deeper into their performance numbers, so in terms of the brake test, so the Fold 1 had an average brake result, which again, that's great. It's what we hope to see. It's very safe. We will give some kudos though to the XP4 as it did have a record-setting brake performance as substantially fewer feet traveled to stop by about 8 feet or something like that.
Those custom brakes were insane.
The custom brakes were absolutely insane. So we'll give some kudos there. But again, the Fold 1 still holds its own. There we go. I can say that. And then over on the hill test, so the Fold 1 Plus again kind of came in around average in terms of hill test climb times. The XP4 though scored the all-time best result. Reading the wrong line. The XP4 does have one of the fastest performances on our new hill test location, where we've tested out 40 some odd bikes now. So it is definitely one of the faster ones out there. Again, sportier, kind of like we mentioned before.
And that is the 750 watt version.
Specifically the 750. Yes. That's correct.
And then on the range side of things, so both are roughly similar on their high power tests, around 30 miles. The Fold 1 Plus gave us a little bit more on the low power test, and then that was in the mid 60s, and then the XP4 was kind of in the mid 50s. So not a huge difference, but a little bit of an edge if you are using lower power levels. And then our speed test, so both can run at class 2 or 3 speeds. They both ship as class 2s and then convert either through the display or the app in the Lectric case. They both have throttles and again, just generally respond well there. And then you do get a little bit more customization with the Fold 1 Plus and all of those sort of tuning options with the sensors and power levels. But then, kind of moving on to our recommendations here.
Yeah, so again, just kind of put a bow on it. The XP4 is just one of the best value e-bikes, period, not just for folders. There's just a lot going on there, really good features, really good power, really impressed with the motor performance and just the overall ride quality that it has. It's also very useful with that 150-pound rear capacity rack. There's a lot you can do with it, which is really nice. It's a bit on the heavy side, but other than that, there's just not a whole lot of downsides to that bike. It's a great ride.
For sure. And then, the Fold 1 Plus, has a lot of features in common. Similar performance overall, but I think there's more features there overall. Just again with the app, the sensor swap feature, but it has good comfort and everything. And then that may be the better bike for sort of larger, heavier riders, just because of that super high weight capacity. But we say this kind of every time we do a comparison, because the bikes that we tend to compare are always generally very good, so you really can't go wrong.
We don't want to spend a few minutes talking about a bike that's bad, because we can just sum it up with it's bad.
Exactly.
So we're trying to help you with the two good options here. So ultimately, let us know which one you go with, and let us know how you like it.
For sure.
So moving into our last question here, this is from Papa D9067 on last week's show. Says, "Hi, John and Griffin." Hi. I don't see any of your videos that recommend a real e-bike stand for garage maintenance. Do you have a recommendation? I purchased one on Amazon rated for 120 pounds. Nope. Send it back.
Yikes.
It could hold neither of my electric bikes, an XB3 and an Express. Help, please. And we are here to help. Well, we technically already helped in the comments, but wanted to kind of draw this one up, to the show so the whole audience could benefit. So
exactly right. Yeah, that's what I meant. I think we have a good variety of topics this week, and this is one that I think a lot of folks can benefit from. But I think I want to start off by saying, clearly maybe buyer beware when it comes to Amazon bike-related products.
I was going to say, too good to be true, cheap stuff, Amazon often does. But
yeah, we have a few products that we use in the shop and have gotten a lot of use out of, so we're going to recommend those. But then, just as a heads up, we also have a page on our website for the best bike stands, so you can check that out. We'll link in the comments below. There's a couple different types of stands. So we tend to use ones with wide base plates. They're just a little bit heavier and more sturdy, but there are plenty of travel stands that are decent as well. So basically the two things that we're going to talk about here are from Feedback Sports. We have the Pro E-Lift bike repair stand that we have in the shop right now. That thing is great. It is a motorized lift, so it definitely is on the pricier side, but if you're dealing with a big, heavy, fat tire e-bike, it has the ability to just kind of take all the work out of putting a bike into the stand on that sort of thing. But then, if that's out of your price range, which is understandable, Feedback makes a couple of other great options. So there's the Pro Mechanic stand or the Pro Mechanic HD. And the main difference then there is like construction and weight capacity. So the regular version, I believe, has an 85-pound weight capacity for a single bike, but the HD stand that we kind of just tend to recommend a little bit more often is up to 100 pounds. So again, it can carry those big, heavy, fat tire e-bikes, but you do have to then kind of lift those up there. But it's got this really great, actually both of these have a really great sort of quick clamp ratcheting system that you sort of lift the bike in place, and then you can sort of slap the clamp closed and then kind of wind it tight with a knob there. And then let's see, that one is right around $500. But the stand itself is actually pretty portable, so that's around 18 pounds, and that is pretty portable. You can also get a carry bag for that as well. So yeah, 85 pounds on the regular Pro Mechanic if you want to look at that, and at least right now that is on sale for $315. So a bit of savings if you don't have a super heavy bike. But yeah, if you're curious about some other options, you can check out that list on our website. And then if you have any questions you want to have us address next week, we have a few options there. You can leave a comment on any of our reviews on the website or on that best page in this comment section down below, or that email again, questions@electricbikereport.com.
And then hopefully we'll be talking about you next week.
That's right.
All right, John, time to save people money, and I'm talking about Deals of the Week. Deals of the Week. John, let's save people some money. Let's do it. What do you got for us?
So this week we have Lectric's 8th of July sale. They sent us a nice long email with all the breakdown here. We'll kind of summarize, but there are just tons and tons of e-bikes marked down, and or including some really cool accessories. So $100 off some new models as well, like the Nomad 2 and the Fold 1 Plus that we talked about. There's also $100 to $600 off some of their best-selling e-bikes, like the Discover 1 Plus, the Summit 1, and the T1 ST Plus. And then just, we mentioned this last week, but it is such a killer deal that I wanted to be sure to include this again. Just one of the best deals we've probably ever seen is the Fold 1 Plus. That is
Fold 1 Lite.
Fold 1 Lite. Thank you very much for the catch there. That is $400 off, and that is down to just $699, making it probably the most affordable e-bike we have ever recommended. So.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then in addition to all that stuff going on, all e-bike orders that are over $2,500 get a free Soundcore Boom 3i Bluetooth speaker along with it.
Just like last week, we were talking about Bluetooth. I had to get
That's right.
Stuff like that. All right.
I like it when things jive. Exactly.
All right. Then our next sale up is V-Volt sale. They've got a couple of different models on sale with some pretty steep discounts. I like it.
Yeah.
So the Centauri 2 is $650 off, down to $2,549. This is a terrific lightweight commuter. It's got a very powerful 350 watt mid drive, but really good handling overall, a bike that we like a lot. Also on sale is the Alpha for $346 off, down to $1,553. Another lightweight, this one's more like city cruiser, but it's got really fun and relaxed handling to it as well. So if you're looking for something lighter weight, take a look at what V-Volt's got on for sale.
Yeah, that price, I might buy a Centauri. We'll see.
You can buy another bike. I'm buying all the bikes,
addicted
John.
now. That's why I work here. Nice. But anyway, the last thing for this week is the just a clearance thing at Rad Power Bikes. So they still have the Rad Expand 5, which is $600 off, and that is just $999, making it one of the lowest priced folding bikes out there. And just a great deal on that specific bike. We have recommended. We've really liked it because it is very sturdy handling with the sort of BMX style handlebars. It does not have like the typical collapsible telescoping stem, so just a little bit sturdier with crisper steering. And that one is the older generation model with the cadence sensor, but again, pretty good deal at that price.
Yeah, so make sure to check those out. We'll leave links down in the description. Those links do help support the channel should you choose to buy, so we greatly appreciate that. And let us know which ones you end up picking.
All right, without all of you guys, we would just be two dudes sitting in a room talking about bikes by ourselves. So we really appreciate all of you. We thank you for sticking around and watching. And we like to dedicate a segment of the show to thank one of you guys for reaching out. So,
and in this instance, we're going to be talking about Rob Maxwell again. He was actually the question that we led off with on the question section. But he gave us a little bit of boots on the ground reporting from last week's Trail of the Week when we were up in Alaska. He said, "Hey guys, I lived in Anchorage for 26 years. Kincaid Park has miles of dirt trails, great for mountain biking. And then at Westchester Lagoon on the Tony Knowles Trail, a paved bike path will get you to the east side of town." Again, we are always just talking to you guys. We greatly appreciate the feedback we get and a little bit more deeper insight into some of these things, especially when we're doing the trail systems. Hey,
It looks cool online.
It looks cool online, but like sometimes, you know, like I can't travel to all these places, unfortunately. So if you guys have been there, we greatly appreciate you reaching out and letting us know just some like insider info, tips, tricks, things like that. So a big thank you again to Rob. And then just a reminder, this could be you next week. Just write us at questions at electricbikereport.com.
It's hard to say, see?
It just doesn't roll off the tongue for some reason. But anyway, you can let us know there or let us know in the comments section what you're riding, where you're riding, or somewhere to check out. And hopefully we'll be highlighting you next week.
That's right.
All right, thank you so much for watching. If you're still here at this point in the video, you're the dedicated, you're the diehard. We greatly appreciate you for sticking around and for helping us grow. The best way you can actually do that is by sharing this. I have no doubt you're subscribed already. If you're not, you can still hit that button. But you can also share this with your friends to help, again, grow the channel. Because, John, we're getting really close to that milestone we've been talking about for a while.
We're about 900 subscribers away from the 100,000 mark, and that just means a lot to us. Like, you guys have tuned in and supported us, and, you know, we're almost there. So help us keep growing. We appreciate you for watching. Give this video a like if you enjoyed our content. You know, let us know what you think down in the comments. But that does it for this week's episode of The Weekly Recharge.